Hey guys, it's Danny and today we are going to be doing a book DIY USB flash drive. I have been wanting to make one of these guys for forever and I finally got the materials to make this little DIY and I thought I would make a video showing you guys how to make it. This was my first attempt, so it's obviously not perfect, but it is pretty cute if I do say so myself. So let's get started. The things you will need are some polymorph clay. You can use whatever type of clay you have really, as long as it's in the color white and any color you prefer as the cover, a USB drive, an oven if your clay requires baking. It's optional to have sculpting tools and you definitely need a little bit of patience because if it's your first attempt, it's probably not going to turn out perfect, but it'll be cute anyways. So I decided to go with a light blue color for my cover, and right now I am cutting my white clay to fit the size of my USB. I did not try it with the smaller USB that I did have. These are just USBs that I've had lying around my house for years. Not even kidding, I've probably had this one since I was about 10, and I figured it could use a revamp, so that's what I'm using it for. As I said, this was my first attempt at even trying to make this thing. I probably should have done a trial run before I filmed this, but I didn't. But that's okay because it ended up working out in the end anyways. My first attempt was trying to cut a hole down into the middle of the white as a block, and that wasn't working, so I just decided to trace out the shape of the USB and the size of it so that I could basically carve out and dig out the shape and size of my USB so that when the middle was covered by the cover, it would hold the USB in place and would still look like the entire middle was completely made of white clay apart from the USB. One thing I kept constantly doing was checking to make sure that the USB still fit into the spot that I had just carved out. A couple of times it got warped because the clay is still really soft and didn't always stay in the same shape that I had left it. At this point I had left an extra spot and carved out too much, so I just filled it up with extra white clay that I had off to the side. And if the spot that you carve out does warp, it's just about putting your USB back into that spot and reshaping the clay to fit it again. So now comes the tricky part, which is trying to make the cover of the book. I found that I kept rolling my blue too thin, or sometimes I didn't have enough clay and I kept adding to the clay because I wanted it to have an even layer over the entire book, and I'm also really critical when it comes to those things, so I kept re-rolling it and re-rolling it and re-rolling it. I think I redid it about 10 different times. What you want to do is roll out your cover color of choice to fit the entire outside of the book with a little overlap around each edge, like a book cover does to its pages. And a word of advice, try to make your edges clean and neat before you get it wrapped around the book, otherwise it's pretty difficult to try and cut them straight once they're wrapped around, because then you have to keep flipping the book over and trying to get them all straight, and it's just a pain. Once you are completely satisfied with the look of your book, the last thing you need to do is double and even triple check that your USB fits in the slot you carved out previously, because sometimes when you put the cover on, it warps the slot you carved out. So make sure it sits in there snug, because after it's baked, you can't change it. The last thing we need to do is, if your clay is a baked clay, then you need to bake it. Follow the directions on its box. Mine called for 15 minutes per 1/4 of an inch on 275 degrees Fahrenheit. I accidentally bumped mine up to 350 at one point and burnt the edges on mine a little bit, but I guess that's okay because you could kind of consider it a burnt book from The Book Thief, or River Song's Diary from Doctor Who, because that's pretty much the color of what this book is, and I'm actually okay with the burnt edges. So now the last thing you need to do is put your USB into your USB book case. I love the way mine turned out. It fits perfectly. I went ahead and made sure that it fit into my computer, and it also fit into there and picked up on my computer, which makes me really excited because now I get to use it and save all of my stories on a book USB drive. How cool is that? That is it for this tutorial, you guys. I hope you have fun making your book USB drive. Send me a picture of your finished product at DanniDarlingX on Twitter. I would love to see how you guys do. And if you want to see more DIY tutorials like this, let me know because I am totally down for making more. With that, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye! Thank you for watching my video. Hope that you really enjoyed the show. Hit the subscribe button down